Good afternoon. I think it's good morning in Hawaii. So, hello to everyone who's joining us. Make sure that we are live. Looks like we're live. Great. Well, welcome. I am Juan Elizondo from the National Math and Science Initiative. I am the Vice President for External Affairs, and I'm very happy to welcome everybody. We're going to take just another minute to allow people to join us and then get started. This is the first in our Hispanic Heritage Month STEM Pathways Conversations, and we're very excited to have Dr. David Chavez with us today. In a moment, I'll introduce my colleague, Greg Naranjo, who's going to participate in the conversation with Dr. Chavez, and we'll look forward to that. If you don't know us, the National Math and Science Initiative, Greg will give you a little bit of background about us, and you might hear him and Dr. Chavez and me refer to NMSI. Again, if you don't know us, we do talk about ourselves as NMSI, and very happy to meet those of you who don't know us and to reconnect with those of you who do know us. And so we'll get started here in just a little bit. As I said, my name is Juan Elizondo. I'm the Vice President of External Affairs, and I'm honored and pleased to kick us off today. And we'll just give each other a little bit more time to start right at the top of the hour. Have a couple of great conversations, a few great conversations scheduled for this week, and for this month. And so we'll talk about those, and you can see those here on the screen right now. So I will put myself in here and just say hello again, and then get us started, since we have a great conversation and want to make certain that we allow time for that to happen. So allow me to move this forward, and I'll bring Greg into the conversation. So Greg Naranjo, as I said just a moment ago, is our manager for STEM program design. Greg leads a team that builds our programs for our teachers, our students, our school partners, as they work with NMSI to improve access to STEM education and to advanced education overall. So Greg, welcome. I will turn things over to you and look forward to talking with you and Dr. Chavez in just a little bit.
Yeah, thanks so much, Juan. Welcome, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here with you all today. For those of you who may not know us, NMSI has a holistic approach to supporting education with a focus on STEM education. Now, why STEM education? It's really because we believe it's the greatest lever to accessing opportunity and ultimately is unmatched in unlocking student potential. The foundation of our belief is built on the benefits that STEM skills and knowledge deliver. These include increased access to job opportunities. STEM jobs are continuously increasing at faster and faster rates. Higher earning potentials. STEM jobs typically offer higher salaries than non-STEM occupations. And also improved technology literacy. In today's world, the need for technology skills is pervasive across professions. Now, earlier I mentioned a holistic approach. We have developed a pre-K through 12 plus model of services called NMSI 365. That empowers successes for all participants, especially military-connected students and students furthest from opportunity. This model works to wrap school systems, educators, and students with resources, training, and supports that include teacher trainings throughout the year. We offer summer, fall, and spring training opportunities. Student supports, we provide both synchronous and asynchronous study supports for our kiddos. Administrative supports that include goal setting and program building guidance, and also continuous program management support to help schools monitor student program growth throughout their time in the NMSI 365 program. So ultimately, our goals with this program are to create school cultures that support all students, empower students to reach their highest potentials, and contribute to social impact through equitable education. So that was a quick high-level overview of what we do here at NMSI. But if you'd like to learn more about our programs, please visit us at www.nms.org for more details. Okay, so now let's get to the reason you all are here with us today, to hear from our Latino leader of the hour, Dr. David Chavez. Now, Dr. Chavez is a scientist at Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, where he leads the High Explosives Science and Technology Group. Dr. Chavez is also a trustee for the California Institute of Technology and a NMSI board member as well. He earned a doctorate in organic chemistry from Harvard University and a bachelor's in chemistry from the California Institute of Technology. Among other honors that we'll discuss, Dr. Chavez is a fellow of the American Chemical Society. Dr. Chavez, welcome, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Greg. It's definitely a pleasure to be here to talk to you today.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump right in. So as I just highlighted, you lead the high explosive science and technology group at Los Alamos National Laboratory. Please tell me that means you get to blow things up all day.
We do get to do that, not every single day, but that's the goal, is to be able to make some things, test them out, and be able to see what type of properties they have and things like that. So it's a really fun job. Yeah.
Yeah, super cool. Super cool. Let's take a step back. We just talked a little bit about your role. Tell us a little bit about Los Alamos National Laboratory.
So the Los Alamos National Laboratory is one of the handful of national laboratories that is funded by the U.S. government. It is this one is in particular is funded by the Department of Energy. There's a couple of others that are also funded by the Department of Energy, and we do a broad range of science and engineering here. So we pretty much have every field of science that you can think of, every area of engineering that is out there, and we have jobs that just span a wide range of areas. So there's scientific writers, there's people that do our filming and photography of the science that we do. Lots of that is displayed like on our YouTube channel or our social media outlets. So it's a really good place for Hispanics, and particularly Hispanic women. It's one of the top employers typically every year for satisfaction and just overall, I guess, happiness in jobs and careers for Hispanic women.
Yeah, it sounds like such a wonderful environment for cultivating STEM education and STEM careers. Now, I heard you discovered the laboratory through a summer program. Had you heard of it before, or had you come across that program opportunity?
So the you're referring to the summer program that I was involved in when so the my first real introduction to a career in science was through this program called the Project Seed of the American Chemical Society, and it is about a 53-year-old program that's run by the American Chemical Society. And typically what they're looking for is economically disadvantaged students to be able to give them an experience in hands-on research. Usually the students are high school age, anywhere from just finishing their sophomore year up until their senior year. And I was in the spring of my sophomore year when my chemistry teacher brought forward this news about a program that was being offered at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, and anybody who was interested in sort of applying for it, they could take the application and apply to it. And this particular program was going to be hosted by the Los Alamos National Laboratory, but many of the other areas or organizations that host students through the American Chemical Society Project Seed include like industry. It might be like Procter and Gamble, or maybe like Chevron, or other universities. So there's research universities that can host students as well through this program. So it's sort of broad ranging, but the main purpose is to get an experience in chemistry and also doing hands-on research with your own project, which at the end you write up a poster and you present it to other people, other students, and other sort of scientists or engineers that are at the facility that you're being hosted by. So that's sort of how this came about. I applied and I was lucky enough to be selected, and it was actually about 60 miles away from where I grew up. So I had to commute with some people who actually worked up at the lab. They were not necessarily in like the sciences, but they were more in like support organizations. And so I caught up a carpool, caught up a ride with them up to the laboratory every single day, and that's sort of how I got there and got back home Monday through Friday. So figured out how to make it work.
Yeah. Found every opportunity you could to make it work. It sounds sounds like it's proved to be, you know, highly successful for you, and that's awesome. But was there anything that summer that you knew that really sparked your love for science and really drove you to know that that's what you wanted to pursue as a career? Was there anything in particular?
Yeah, so I didn't really have any role models in my community, whether they were relatives or others besides, you know, our teachers, that could really give me a good sense of what was it like to have a career in science. And so this opportunity that I got, you know, I got to tour different areas of the laboratory. I got to talk to individuals who were scientists and engineers, see what type of work they did, see what they were passionate about. But I also had the opportunity to listen to some presentations by, you know, different individuals. And I got to hear a talk by a graduate student who happened to be doing some of his thesis work at the laboratory. And he went to the California Institute of Technology for graduate school. And when I saw this presentation, I was fascinated by it. It was in astrophysics. And that was sort of a seed that was planted for me that told me, first, you know, you can do this in college. That you can do science in college. You can do research in college. And second, that hey, that's a school that I want to go to because, you know, the talk inspired me. So it just opened up these different avenues and different things that I had never really thought about before. And I probably wouldn't have been able to get those experiences outside of this program. And I guess, you know, broadened my horizons as to what was possible after high school. So definitely a really impactful experience being in that program.
Yeah, I think it's so important to find those nuggets of inspiration along the way, right? That really keep you driving towards that career that you're striving for. I think it's so great that you came across this wonderful opportunity that inspired and nurtured your love for the STEM field. And I know there might be young people out there who they could never expect that they would get lucky enough to be chosen for a summer program like this that might change their lives, or they may think that they wouldn't be able to afford it. What are some things that they can do to open those doors? And what might their parents, schools, and even community members do to support them as well?
So one of the things that I've learned over time is that, um, if you don't submit the application, if you don't you know, fill out the forms, then you know, you're already making your chance zero. So you got, as much as you might think, well, I don't know if I have a chance, or, you know, there's so many other people who are more deserving than me, or whatever. Um, the the most important thing is to put your name out there, to, you know, to put your name in the pool of candidates that are going to be considered, and let somebody else make that choice, that you're, you know, that maybe you don't have the qualifications, but don't make that choice for yourself, because oftentimes we're our own biggest critic. Oftentimes we don't have the full broader picture of what people are looking for. We may have experiences or things that we've kind of done that build a resume that we don't think are actually you know, big things, or they're not important things, but other people who are looking at these applications, they have more experience, and they know what experiences students have that actually can make a difference. For example, if you, in your family, you have a responsibility to take care of an elder, you know, one of your grandparents or something, and this is something that is your responsibility, and you have to do it, you know, every day, or you have a younger sibling that you have to take care of, and there's responsibilities that you need to do to take care of those things. Those types of things, even though they don't seem like they apply to like a STEM sort of program, what they show is they show that you care, that you have that you're responsible, that if they're going to hire you, you're probably going to show up on time. You know how to, you have a work ethic, you know things that are important to you. And so there's a lot of things that students have and that they do on a day-to-day basis that are really important. We just struggle with highlighting and selling ourselves like, hey, these things are important, and the reason why they're important is because they've established a work ethic, or they established this or that. And so I guess the main point that I'm trying to say for the student themselves is, don't sell yourself short. Put your name in the pool so that you're not cut off. You're not cutting yourself off from opportunities. Let somebody else do that for you. And for parents and other people in the support group for the students, continue to encourage your child or the person that you're mentoring to, you know, keep trying to keep putting your name out there, and putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, that's such an important message to block out the doubt, right? And to don't sell yourself short. And I used to always, I taught AP biology before coming on to NMSI as a program, as a manager of program design. And one of the things that I always told my students was, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? You've got to shoot your shot. You've got to put your name out there. You've got to get out, put yourself out on a ledge and take that chance, right? And let those powers that be make the decisions. But again, don't sell yourself short. You have so many skills, those soft skills, those 21st century skills that you may not even realize that you have. Let that shine, right? And let other people see that, right? And the opportunities will come. So I think that's such great advice. I think that's wonderful. Yeah. Now transitioning to this being National Hispanic Heritage Month, right? What Latino role models were there for you to see throughout your educational career?
So my first role models really were the teachers that I had. So the community that I grew up in was primarily Hispanic majority in northern New Mexico. So probably, I would say, every single teacher that I had up until 6th grade was a Hispanic female or male teacher. Once I went to junior high and high school, I had some other ethnicities mixed in there, but I had a couple of really good math and science teachers that were Hispanic, and so they could get me to a certain point with respect to learning the materials and being proficient in that environment. But to get me beyond that, I needed something more that my community really couldn't offer. The SEED program, helped me to kind of see a broader perspective of what was really out there and available to me if I, made the right choices in terms of studying hard and going to college, things like that. But I didn't really have any Hispanic role models going into college. So when I started at Caltech, my high school didn't have AP classes, and it didn't have the rigor that most urban city high schools had. And so they had this opportunity for students that came from similar backgrounds to go and have this sort of 8-week sort of bridge program that allowed us to kind of transition into the college environment. A lot of the students that were in this program were Hispanic students, and the organizer or the program leader was also Hispanic. And so it was really challenging for me to go from being very successful and all my coursework being so easy in high school to being in a place where everybody was phenomenal and the work was just at such a higher level that your confidence just drops, dramatically. So probably halfway through this course, maybe halfway to 3/4, I felt like I don't belong here. There's just no way. I'm not going to make it at this school. I just don't belong. And I went to talk to the program director, and I said, hey, like, I'm thinking of just dropping out, and I'll just go back to school in New Mexico. I'll find a place to go there. And the one thing he told me, which is kind of like goes back to the theme of our just prior conversation, is he said, first semester hasn't even started yet, and you want to quit. So why don't you at least give it one semester, and give it a try, see what happens, and And after you've tried it out for a semester, then you can decide what you want to do. And I thought that was pretty good advice. Someone in the admissions committee, maybe several people, took a chance on me to select me, even though I was not from one of the top high schools, and my high school didn't, necessarily give me the preparation that a lot of the other students had. They still thought I had something that was enough to, survive and make it at that school. And I wanted to honor that decision that they made, the faith that they put in me to offer me that spot on the incoming freshman list and not to somebody else. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to stick this out. And it turned out that my first semester was actually more manageable than I expected it to be, and just tried my best, and I was able to transition into that new world and do it in a way that was really a lot. It was challenging, but I realized that I had the capability to do it. And so that program director, he basically served as a mentor during that time period, because he helped me to see that I did have some things that were important that could help me navigate this new world that I was in. He encouraged me not to give up, to not doubt myself, at least give it a shot, give it my best, and that's what I did. And once I was in college, I ended up finding a professor who was a Cuban American, and I didn't know it at the time, but when I joined his group, he brought me into his office and started talking to me about different things about career growth and stuff. And he specifically mentioned to me that, hey, we need to watch out for each other. We need to help each other out, because there's not that many of us out here. And he just took me under his wing and just provided me so many opportunities, not only in college but after college, and him serving as an important mentor for me was really impactful for how I navigated the rest of my career. And I sort of did the same thing when I went to grad school. I tried to find somebody who was also of Hispanic heritage, and my graduate advisor was a Puerto Rican American who grew up in New York, and so he also kind of had that same sort of approach to mentoring me.
Yeah, I think it's really important to find those mentors that can help you push through those challenges, right? Help you persevere. And I think that the story that you just told was a wonderful story in perseverance and giving yourself a fair shot, right? And finding those role models and those influences that will help drive you in the right direction and will support you, right? And give you that safety net to ensure that you're successful.
Right.
I think it's wonderful. Now that you're sitting in that position, is that something that you strive to do for the younger generation in your laboratory and in your community?
Yeah, so I actually decided to give back as much as I could to that American Chemical Society Project Seed. I signed up as a Project Seed program coordinator, and I also signed up as a mentor. So I hosted a summer student through that program, and then in addition to that, I just also host college students, postdocs as well. And I'm looking for people who have maybe similar experiences to what I was going through, and giving them these opportunities where they can see a broader perspective on what's possible for them in their future careers. So I've had students who, even though they didn't go on to become a chemist, they went on to pharmacy school and they're now pharmacists, or they went to medical school and they're doctors, or they went from doing the research with me in chemistry and they went on to major in engineering and became electrical engineers or mechanical engineers, all these different areas. And so it's one of the things that is really important to me is giving back. It's in large part why I was selected as an American Chemical Society fellow, is because of the amount of educating and mentoring that I did to underrepresented populations. So not only did I do the hosting of summer students at the laboratory, but I also signed up to teach general chemistry at the local community college in my community for about 8 or 9 years. And so, provided them a really top-notch experience in chemistry, general chemistry, and gave them probably an experience like, that they normally wouldn't have in a community college setting because of the sort of experience that I was bringing from the laboratory, the experience I brought from the colleges that I went to, the fact that I was from the same community that they were from, and gave them both like an example as a role model, but also gave them gave them an example as a teacher, their teacher, and teaching them, the different things to do with respect to their education. So just a few examples of how I gave back to try to help students out.
Yeah, I think it's so honorable to be paying it forward and giving back to the community. I can only imagine that these students, just as you did, right, will take these experiences, cherish them, and ultimately pay it forward to their communities for the next generation. And I think that's what it's all about, right? Paying it forward and making sure that the knowledge that you have, the experiences that you've gone through, right, are shared with the next generation so that they can continue to grow upon those. And I think that's so wonderful. Now, through this discussion, we talked about many challenges, right? The challenges that you had once you got to the collegiate ranks and trying to find your way. Now, I know that even before you leave the community, we know that every family and community is different, and we also know that Latino communities in particular are very tight and protective. For some people, that can translate into difficult situations where they pursue post-secondary education and they accept jobs that take them away from their families. What do you think about that? And how can young Latinos wrestle with those kind of conflicts where it's the community trying to keep them close and tight?
So that is something that I also experienced. My dad had some very strong feelings about leaving the state. He wanted me to stay in the community, to contribute in the community. He probably had some fear of if I leave, I'm probably not ever coming back. And so it was difficult for them, my parents, to see me applying to colleges that were not in the state or not nearby. And also, when I decided to go to school in California, it was something that was very difficult for them. They thought I was making a bad decision, or maybe not a bad decision, but a decision that was going to take me away from sort of the kind of the traditions and family responsibilities and things like that. So the way I navigated that was just to sort of keep myself grounded as much as possible. That at some point my goal was to come back and contribute to my community. Even though I was going to go away, it didn't necessarily mean that I would stay away. Tried to communicate that to my parents, and I honestly I did have that goal of coming back to my state and contributing back in the state once I started a career. But it is difficult. So there's multiple factors, not only with respect to um, leaving and being far away. There's also the factors of as parents, they may not really even understand the college process. How they might think, well, you have to pay. We can't afford this. We don't have the money to pay for you to go to college. You need to go to the community college or somewhere nearby that is more affordable, or you might need to take on a job and pay your own way. But there's so many opportunities with respect to scholarships, work study, all of these different types of opportunities that you can figure out how to make it work. So a component of this is educating the parents on, what's possible. And then second, going beyond college, which is in graduate school, that just seems like another bill, another bill. So you're going to keep going to school, and you're going to just have more school bills. But in the STEM areas, specifically in the sciences, you get a stipend to go to graduate school. You don't have to pay. And it's pretty amazing how many people I talk to who say, "Oh, you went to grad school. I mean, that must have been expensive." And when they hear that it was free, then they're shocked. And really, for parents and for relatives, being informed about the process is just so important, because it will help them understand that you can make it through these processes and not be in major debt. And then at the end of it, you have these careers that are available to you that are much higher paying, and help you to be able to have a, have a life that is less stressed by these circumstances that tend to be out of your control when you don't have access to those types of jobs.
Yeah, I think it's so important, to educate your parents as well. I know, back in my day, it was information wasn't as easily available. It wasn't readily available as it is now with media, internet, at what it is today. And so having those difficult conversations was tough, right? You had to go out and do your research and really share, what it is that you were looking to do, and it's difficult to do so. But it's important for students to sit down and have that difficult conversation, say, this is what I'm looking to do, but also why, right? And try to open their eyes to what opportunities are there, and what successes could come about. And I think you're also right about the monetary situation as well, right? There are opportunities out there. There are scholarships. There are grants. There are stipends. I too had a free and clear master's education as well, right? And so the opportunities are there, not always, right? But again, right? Shoot your shot. Find the opportunities and go for them, and good things happen. So I think that's huge. Now, on the other side of this, right, there's the challenge of Latinos to get out of the community, right, and the pull back, right. So on the other side, when they do, right, we so often hear women and people of color describing experiences where they're the only woman, Latino or Black person, in a class or professional setting. Now, I know you said you had this bridge program where you were kind of immersed with people of your color, people of your culture, people from your community. But are there any experiences like this where you may have been the only Latino in a class? And are there any like that stand out to you?
Yeah, so in that bridge program, I was privileged to have other students that were, Hispanic or Latino or Latina, to sort of share our experiences and to find sort of a support group. But when you go out into the classes themselves, or you start doing research in the different professors' organizations, you end up becoming like, one or the only one in those environments. And so there aren't a lot of sort of overlapping experiences with the the people that you're interacting with. And so you, at least for myself, I found myself just kind of trying to figure out what their worlds were like. And I didn't really share a lot about my upbringing, because it just seemed so foreign to the what these other individuals experienced when they grew up. And in grad school, it was fairly similar. Not a lot of people that looked like you or had experiences like you. And so you sort of find your support groups. There's there might be a handful of people elsewhere in the department, and you might go and find them and figure out how to support each other. Or there might be these different activities or clubs where people who look like you or have experiences more similar to you might to be involved with. And so that's where I kind of found some support during the way. But now in the group that I'm in, I'm probably, it's a group of maybe like 50, 55, and I'm now at a level where I can influence the hiring process. And so right now I'm probably the only Latino in the group, but as I'm in this process of hiring and looking at applicants and things like that, I have much more of a say into building the workforce of the future in our group, and I'm starting to bring in a lot more diversity, both women and also underrepresented groups. So you might not be able to influence things as much early on in your career, but as you grow and rise, then you have those opportunities where then you can make the decisions to have the workforce look more diverse, and diversity just brings a lot more ideas, and tends to build much more effective and efficient problem-solving capabilities. I have a quick question for you. Is it possible to take like a 2-minute pause? My battery is running low, and I just want to get the power cord.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so that'll give us an opportunity. David, go ahead and take the time to do what you need to there.
Okay.
And that will give us a chance to remind everybody that this is the National Math and Science Initiative. I'm Juan Elizondo. I'm the Vice President for External Affairs, and here with my colleague Greg Naranjo, who is our Manager for STEM Program Design. And so excited and happy for you all to be with us. As a reminder, right now we're talking with Dr. David Chavez, who is a high explosives chemist at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. I know Greg and Dr. Chavez will be talking about that work in just a little bit here. And then you can see on the screen, we have a couple other STEM pathways conversations coming up. And those are because of, and in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, are Latinas who are highly accomplished, and you can see their names and their backgrounds. And so we're looking forward to those additional conversations. Greg, what has stood out for you right now with your conversation with Dr. Chavez? You're on mute there. Sorry about that.
It really resonates with me is just the affinity of the experiences that he's had, the challenges and the role models. And I feel like I can relate. I've had a lot of those same challenges, and I've found my role models, and I've found my groups that have helped support me through it. And so it really helps me connect with someone, who's so successful out there, and it makes me feel that, things are possible if you take the chances, right? And if you shoot your shot. And I think that was the biggest piece for me with him, is that it's just about taking those opportunities and running with them, right? And it's what he did, and it's what's made him so successful. And I think, every young student, every young Hispanic, every young student of any color can really, really learn from that, right? And taking those opportunities and putting themselves out there, even at times being a bit vulnerable, right? Just to say, I need this support, I need this help is a huge step in the right direction. It really is. Yeah. So, it takes a village, it takes a community, and it takes the effort from the student as well. And I think that's really what resonates with me here today.
Yeah, I would tell you that vulnerability that was shared, that strength to self-advocate. So as he shared that moment where so many of us have faced that moment of, I want to quit, I'm an imposter, I don't belong here. And both recognizing that and having the strength and the understanding of how to self-advocate, really made a difference in his life. So looks like Dr. Chavez is ready to rejoin us now that technology is set up. So I'm going to step back out and let you all keep going.
Sounds good.
Sorry about that.
No worries, Dr. Chavez. Welcome back. I appreciate you doing what you have to do to stay with us here today. So just to recap, I know we've been talking about those how do you encourage young people to work through those difficult situations? I know you talked about how you've worked through them. Do you have those conversations with young people today, people in your workforce, people who are going through college? Do you have those conversations? How's that usually?
It's pretty powerful for students to hear. So when I have students, whether it's in the general chemistry teaching setting or in my laboratory where I'm teaching them, um, you, they see me as this person who's super successful, and I must be successful because that's just who I am. But when they hear that I've gone through lots of struggles, when they hear that I've gone through lots of failures, and that I, pick myself back up, that I didn't give up, or, for example, I didn't really know that I was going to 100% be in a STEM career when I was in college, but I did know that if I went to medical school, I could come back to my community because I could get a job as a doctor anywhere. And I was pre-med, and I did actually apply to medical school, and I went to med school for about a semester and a half. But it really just wasn't for me, And so where I struggled with that was my parents, they know what a doctor is, they know what a medical doctor is, and their friends and relatives know what that means. And so telling them that I wasn't going to be a medical doctor, how am I going to tell my parents this, and how am I going to tell them that I'm going to go be a PhD scientist, chemist? What is that, what does that mean? Like they're not really 100% like knowledgeable about what that meant. So that was really a difficult choice for me, because I did have to essentially, what I felt was disappoint my parents, even though they really were not necessarily disappointed. I felt that I was disappointing them. And then, telling them about how I nearly quit, how I was ready to just leave, pack up my bags before I even started college. Even right now, there's things that, I try to get recognition for one thing or another at work, or a promotion or whatever. And I've had to try multiple times. You don't get selected year after year after year, but like we talked about earlier, if you don't keep trying, then you're not going to achieve the goal. So it's really, I've found it really powerful for students to hear these things from somebody who they think just everything comes easy to them. And when they realize that, oh, it's like um, they experience struggles that I'm experiencing, and the way they handled it was, to not give up, to find support, to ask questions, and that's one of the things that I think is the most important lesson that I've learned through my career is um, learning how to advocate for yourself, learning how to ask questions, learning to feel comfortable not knowing, and asking the question where you stop saying somebody's going to think I'm stupid if I ask this question. And who cares if they think you're stupid? Like, that's not the goal. Is you need the information. And once you get the information, then that allows you to take the next step and make the next decision and all of those things. It it's really irrelevant what somebody else thinks of you. What's relevant is, are you making progress to the goal that you're trying to get to? And are you getting the information that you need? And if somebody thinks something of you and doesn't want to give you the information, well, then you find someone else to get the information from, and just keep asking, and let that part go. Let that self-doubt, let that worry about what other people think, just let it go. And it doesn't happen instantly, but over time I found that, hey, like, that doesn't matter. What matters is, am I making progress? Am I, like, filling the holes that I have to make myself a better scientist, better person, whatever.
When you had to peel off there to connect your computer, Juan and I were talking about what we were enjoying most about this conversation. I think you hit the nail on the head. You had the two key words there. The first one is the vulnerability that you were willing to share, right? I think that's huge, especially when communicating with young ones, is being vulnerable and telling them, listen, I wasn't always successful, right? I had my struggles too, and here's how I fought through them. I think it's so important for them to hear, and I'm so happy to hear you say that. And also self-advocacy, right? Having them be able to step up, to defend themselves, to step up for themselves, and to put themselves out there, right? And to shoot their shot. I think that's huge. In us as leaders, as educators, I think it's so important for us to be vulnerable when talking to young people, right? And to also push them towards self-advocacy. And I think that's wonderful that that's the message that you have, and that's what you try to pass on to the next generation. It's so important, especially for those striving to pursue careers in the STEM field. So wonderful. Okay, so we have a few minutes, but I want to go back to the successes you had and thinking about connections between STEM education and the real world, right? That real world connection. So I believe you hold a dozen patents in energetic materials and pyrotechnics. What are some of the applications that young people and even average Americans might experience related to those? How might we see your work?
So one of the biggest impacts to sort of the general population that I've had with the research that I've done is in the area of pyrotechnics. So when I was an undergrad here at the laboratory, I was working with a mentor who worked on these energetic materials, and we were approached by the Disney Corporation to make um, fireworks for them that had less smoke associated with them, because the neighboring communities around Disney World or Disneyland didn't like the smoke that was generated from their large displays, like drifting over their areas, and they didn't want to be bad neighbors, and so they wanted to try to solve this problem. So we worked on this, generated some technologies that essentially accomplished what we were setting out to do, which was reducing the smoke. But at the same time, the technology that we developed was able to improve some other things. So, for example, the colors that you see in fireworks come from metals that are in the pyrotechnics. So, like barium will give you a green color, strontium will give you red, sodium will give you kind of a yellowish color. And in these old traditional pyrotechnics, you needed a lot of these colorants to make the color. But now that we were making these fireworks that were burning really clean with very, very little smoke, if any smoke, you could use like about an order of magnitude less of these coloring agents, and so you could still get really beautiful colors, but use less of these ingredients, which sometimes are hard to get, or sometimes maybe they're like not the best for the environment or whatever. So there's that. What we ended up doing was spinning off a company in northern New Mexico with the technologies that we developed. We developed new technologies with this spin-off company, which were then licensed by larger pyrotechnic manufacturing companies. And so now, anytime you see fireworks at Super Bowl, the Olympics, rock concerts, outdoors or indoor kind of environments like Cirque du Soleil, um, world wrestling types of things, Disney on Ice. Some of those pyrotechnics that you see are using the technology that we developed and that were based on original research that I did as an undergraduate. So it's kind of cool to look out there and see some of these really big global events, and know that people are enjoying the pyrotechnic displays that were based on the technologies that we developed here. And when I was probably like 22 years old or something.
Just a few years back. Hey, so it's super cool, and I can tell you that personally, I love going to sporting events, and I love the 4th of July fireworks, and of course the New Year's as well. So I'll be looking up the sky and thinking about you here in the holiday season, and wondering what it is exactly that's going on up there. But that's huge. Those real world connections are big to inspire students to pursue STEM careers, and so something is entertaining as fireworks, right? For that to spark, right?
I wonder if technology is going to continue to to grab us a little bit. Greg is frozen there for a little bit, so we'll hang on and see if we get him back. I also, David, just thrilled, and Dr. Chavez, excuse me, just thrilled to hear that, because I think that so often people think, oh, you work in a lab, you're off doing this thing, and that doesn't really connect to the world. And so I think hearing that helps people to understand that there are real world applications. And while this is something that is we see and has that really tangible thing, there are so many other types of connections that are so critical to health, to the environment, those other kind of things. So I think those kind of impacts are incredible.
Yeah, I agree. And that's just an example of like something that is a civilian application, but we have so many government applications. The pyrotechnics themselves, there's pyrotechnics that are used by the military for signaling and different things like this, and so we've had a pretty big impact in that area as well. We develop materials that can be used in automobile airbags, so there's safety applications for that. There's applications for filling like life safety vests, like onboard airplanes, or those life rafts. We've had technologies that were licensed to use our materials in those types of applications. So it's a broad range of impacts that we can have from the research that we do.
Yeah, that is amazing, and I think it's so important for people to hear that again, what happens in the lab does have applications that we see and we experience throughout our lives. So I do want to go back. Greg mentioned that he and I talked just for a moment about that self-advocacy, and I just wonder if you can remember going back to that time. You were a young man at that time, and so was it something your parents had instilled in you to self-advocate, or how did that come about? Because so many people would perhaps shrink away because self-advocacy is not something that everyone has a strength at. So just curious if you can remember how that played out.
So I think it really was something that developed a little bit during like my undergraduate career, but there were a couple of components that were important to it from my childhood. So I had I grew up with a situation where my dad was building our house as we lived in a mobile home next to the construction, and he was doing everything. He was doing plumbing, the electric, the building of the walls, getting the actual materials from the forest, like for building stuff, and took like 8 or 9 years doing this on the weekend. And every weekend, my brother and I, that's what we did, was help. Right? We didn't go like hang out with friends. Like that wasn't an option for us. We had to like do that thing. And as a kid, I hated that. Just that sucked. But looking back, I saw an example of perseverance, of not giving up, of doing things for yourself, figuring it out. He didn't have a lot of money to get a mortgage and get a home, so what he did was he did what he could do, and he made it work. But going into college and having that work ethic, that wasn't always necessarily enough. And so you would have to go in and like you'd look at other what I would do is I would look at other students and see what they were doing. And using them as examples. It's like, oh, you can join a research group as an undergrad. Okay, like I'll go do that. And so how did you do that? What did you do? It's like, oh, I just went and talked to the professor and I told him I was interested in this or that or whatever. It's like, oh, okay. And so just kind of mimicking the people that you found were like successful at doing things and paying attention, right? But in my career here at the laboratory, what I found was that no one really has the time to like sit down and say, hey, David's doing an awesome job. We should promote him, or we should nominate him for this or that or whatever. And I just was sitting there waiting for somebody to do this, and it wasn't happening. And I thought, well, I kind of think I could qualify for some of these things. And so I just started to like saying, well, I think I have to do it myself. because it's not that people don't necessarily that they're not looking out for you or whatever. It's just that everybody's busy, and you have to do some of the work yourself. And then when you show people, hey, look at all these things, look at these whatever, and put it out there for them, and even maybe kind of do some of the work for them, it's like, oh, it's a lot easier for them because you did half the work or whatever. But what I found is that, hey, that actually works. And so as I've learned that worked, then I just started implementing it, like always self-advocating, always just pushing, hey, I don't want this, I need that, I need these things, and not being afraid to be told no. And even if you're told no, then hey, I'll just ask again, and I'll just like keep doing it. And not to get discouraged, but just what's the end goal? Like I talked about earlier, is am I making progress towards the end goal? And if I am, then I'm heading in the right direction.
Yeah, and what we've heard from you here and seen is that while that self-advocacy is critical, you're modeling for others, and you continue to advocate for them so that they can advocate for themselves while you're also helping there. So it is critical for each of us to self-advocate and to model that and pass it forward. So we see all of that and really appreciate hearing those words from you. So I'm going to transition us a little bit. We're almost at the top of the hour, and so I'm going to remind our group that we've been this afternoon with Dr. David Chavez, who is a high explosives chemist at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. He is also a NMSI board member and a fellow at the chemist.
American Chemical Society.
Yeah, American Chemical Society. Sorry, it just fell right out of my head and off of my tongue. Thank you there. So we will be next week with Dr. Lisa Moreno Walton, and then after that with Dr. Minerva Cordero. This is part of our recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month and visiting with Latinos and Latinas who are well accomplished and how they have traversed through their education and through their professional careers. So again, want to thank everybody. The recording will be available, and so if you're able to revisit and share with friends, we hope you will do that. And I want to give my thanks to both Greg and to Dr. Chavez for having such a great conversation. And any last thoughts from either of you that you want to share with the audience?
I just want to apologize for falling off the call right there at the end, but Dr. Chavez, thank you so much for being here today. It was truly an honor and enjoyed the conversation. Appreciate it.
And I wanted to just say that it was a great honor for me to be able to talk to you guys today, to be given the opportunity to participate in this type of venue, to help encourage others, to help inspire others as well. And if people have questions, if they want to follow up with me, there's my email address that's available. I'm always happy to talk, and more than happy for anyone to reach out and on any topic at all.
And thank you for that. And there is contact information for Greg and myself if you want to learn more about our programs or learn how to connect with NMSI, either through a direct program or through advocacy. That is our goal, is to expand access and achievement in STEM education and to create opportunities for students. So if we can connect and be of help somehow, we look forward to doing that. So again, thank you all for being with us. Thank you again to Greg and Dr. Chavez. Have a good afternoon.